Our guest this week is Tim Rhode. Tim Rhode is a C3D certified in the three dimensions of business growth. He has the distinction of being the first professional of the current cohort to earn the certification. And Tim is the best known as the author of Changing Lanes for Business, a terrific book about change leadership. Tim and I are going to have a free-ranging conversation on a bunch of topics, focusing on his experience with the C3D certification course and what he got out of it, right? Why is it important? Why is it impactful? So buckle up, start your engines. Here we go. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. And this week in the hot seat, we have Tim Rhode, who's become a good friend. And Tim has the dubious distinction of being the first person to earn their certification in the three dimensions of business growth. And we've been running trainings and certifications and teaching facilitation practices and workshops for a very long time. And we've recently evolved much of that into the certification in the three dimensions of growth, or C3D. And we've made it much easier to consume, right? It's at your own pace. It's online. And Tim and I'll talk about that. So Tim, enough of me shilling for the course. If you'd please share a little bit about who you are and why clients hire you, how you like to spend your time.
Hey, well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate this. I got to tell you how much I'm enjoying being part of the Growth Drive community. I've been a business advisor, business owner, and founder for decades, helping businesses or running them myself for more than 40 years now. And I operate a business advisory practice in the Baltimore, D.C. market, as you know. And
Yeah.
after years of either collaborating or leading my own team or working independently to help other businesses solve problems to help them run better, I was really enamored when I met you, and also began to understand your approach with Growth Drive. Reading the book was a lights on moment for me. And
Thank you.
while I've spent years helping businesses to solve issues and problems and make their way forward, I was in the process of understanding Growth Drive and then coming into meeting with the group in Charleston and collaborating with people on the weekly calls. I began to realize there was a bigger goal, a bigger outcome, and that's literally increasing the strategic capacity or the enterprise value of the business. And so it's reset my whole approach, and I'm working now on a sort of a for higher stakes with better players, I think, with better outcomes.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Um, you're also an author, Changing Lanes for Business, and part of your advisory business is using the excellent Tina Corner-Stoltz's excellent LX Council process and program. I see her book over your shoulder there, Your Seat at the Table. And Tina's terrific. So you have a number of your hands. You provide advice or help folks in a number of different ways, which I absolutely love. Polymath.
It's a blessing and a curse, right? So, so a lot of plates spinning usually.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, I know the feeling. So do most of the people who are listening to this podcast. So congratulations, man. You started the course. You are one of the first cohort of people who are taking the course. Approaching 24 in the first cohort, and you threw yourself at it. I mean, you jumped out of the gate, and I think you thought it was going to take you through June, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly.
Yeah, I was I
Yeah.
was pacing myself. I was literally asking my colleagues and like, "Hey, would it be all right if I took 3 or 4 months to work my way through this?" Just because I know how many other things I have going on. And I was so enamored by it. Like, even just from the first episode in, I couldn't wait to do the next one. I was just eager. It was like watching what I said it was like watching a Netflix series where I was literally getting up earlier in the morning, and I already get up early in the morning, but I get up earlier in the morning, and some days I would binge it. I would do 2 or even 3, or in the course of a week where I had originally hoped to do an episode every 2 weeks or so. I was doing 2 or 3 in a week, and in the end, it just flew by. And I really enjoyed it. Like, I was looking forward to taking the exam, not only to earn the credential, but primarily to understand the full process. And it wasn't like that wasn't available to me otherwise, but the course gave it to me in a very structured and progressive manner, which is kind of it's how I think in the first place. Especially, I got to say, all of the color commentators you had in the episodes with you really helped as well. The different perspectives from Larry and Andy and Mike and Eric and everybody else that weighed in was very, very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Let's talk about thank you, by the way. I'm going to say thank you a lot during this podcast. I appreciate it. And let's talk about the format for a sec. So what the world is spared is listening to George Sandman talk for, it's almost 20 hours of learning. And what we do is we bring in subject matter experts, one or two subject matter experts in essentially every one of the classes. How did you?
Well, I think it works well several ways. First of all, you get the different perspectives, and oftentimes your collaborators for the various episodes have deep subject matter expertise. You're already knowledgeable on these things, but these people have spent their careers diving into one aspect of it or another, and they just offer that extra perspective. It's the reason why they have play-by-play and color commentators on NFL and baseball and everybody else. As a presenter, I've given hundreds of presentations in front of groups, small and large, and I know that when you're up there and you're collaborating with somebody, it's so much better because not, it gives you a chance to breathe in between making comments, and as, oh yeah, and you wind up bringing out the best in each other. I mean, 1 + 1 clearly equals 3 or even more in that format. So I think it's outstanding.
Yeah, it's interesting that Ed, who is on several of the
Yes.
Ed has forgotten more than most of us will ever know, especially on the topics of valuation and working with business owners. Having two people deliver it is absolutely, I thoroughly agree. And we talk about it behind the scenes as play by play when I'm talking to our co-presenter, the faculty, play by play and color. And we have some great people help teach the
Well, there were
course.
several episodes where you had two people
Yeah.
plus yourself, and
Sure.
that was really exceptional because now you got the color commentary from more than one source. So, again, just exceptional. And Ed was, I mean, he brought up things that I hadn't even thought of, I didn't even know about, right? Which was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we had Fletcher Brown, who's the CEO of BEI, home of the Certified Exit Planner designation, and Eric Owen doing exit planning. And Eric is a CEPA, a widely known CEPA, a Certified Exit Planner from the EPI. So I also bringing different communities together. Those guys talking about exit planning and then having Ed Wanke, who is a valuator and teaches valuation for NACVA. And Ed and I have taught value acceleration or value improvement, value growth to the NACVA. We taught it together for years, better part of a decade. And he was on when we did value, right? We had Ed, and then we also had an investment banker. Like here's the way the private capital markets and I, Rob Waring, as an investment banker, view the world. Those are conversations are as fun for me. By the way, I learned so much through you guys, and that I think the course, you're absolutely right that those perspectives we're all learning together.
One thing I think is really cool, and it's that it's hiding here in plain sight, but look at who you're attracting. I mean, Growth Drive as a concept has merit. It has tremendous merit. And look at who's, like, I was explaining this to a prospect yesterday that you've built this campfire and all these professionals from these other industries, other perspectives are coming around your campfire, which is quickly, by the way, becoming a bonfire. And the more these people gather, I think we're up to like 170 people now.
Yeah.
I mean, by this time next year, it'll be 2 or 3x that at a minimum, maybe more, maybe 1,000 or more.
From
But
your lips to God's ears, man.
it's a testimony to the capacity, the capability, and the legitimacy of the Growth Drive process. If it didn't make sense, if it didn't work, if it wasn't a new and better way to help people accelerate growth and success, these people, we wouldn't be circling the lamp, right? So it's a testimony to what you've created and how you're delivering it, and your willingness to collaborate with all these different subject matter experts to bring the best to bear. And it I don't know, I think it's great. It's something that is adding value and helping the campfire turn into that bonfire.
Thank you, Tim. And an interesting, just a short little story. We were at the summit last year, or maybe it was two summits ago. Doesn't matter. another shameless shill. We have our summit coming up here in Charleston, October 6th, 7th, and 8th. I know you're going to be here. But a couple of summits ago, Silvana Nani, who's ex-Booz Allen, a very accomplished advisor in her own right in your market, in the DC market, pulled me aside and said, "How do you do it? What's your strategy for attracting all these people?" And I had to say to her candidly, I'm like, I don't actually have a strategy to attract these people. These people, these professionals tend to find us. I don't think there are many people in the community. I'm hard pressed to think of more than two who are below 50 in age. We are attracting senior professionals. I say serious. We're not haram. This is a fun group, but senior professionals who are committed to delivering client outcomes, positive client outcomes, and it's super fun. So thanks for pointing that out. And diverse, but that's the other thing that we tend to we're attracting you and a lot of people like you. We're attracting CPAs. We're attracting folks who are in their encore career. Sometimes the two are combined, right? But they're in their encore career. They've sold their business. Take David, who just joined the community, just sold his business, very successful exit. And is looking to now take that knowledge and distribute it. CPAs, exit planners, wealth advisors, investment bankers, we're now attracting private equity operators. I think that is such a rich, you can see me getting jazzed up. So I'm sorry, I'm hogging the mic.
Well, but aside from realizing the collection of perspectives and expertise that's coming together, it winds up creating an unbelievable network of resources. Like if I can't handle half of the things that you're talking about, I'm good at helping people change and helping individual business leaders and teams get from where they are to where they want to be. But I'm not an investment banker. I'm not a CPA. I'm not an exit planner, right? I'm not a wealth advisor. When I need those people, I'm surrounded by them in the network, which is great. And I know them and I know what they believe. It's not like we're going to be bringing in somebody who's got a contrarian perspective. We're all gathering around this approach of being a growth driving advisor. So a lot of complementary initiative there, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have layers. You have decided to fully embrace our methodology and process and to learn to invest the time and treasure in the C3D. Most of the people in the community may not choose to do that. And by the way, great. As you know, I only want people in the community who want to be in the community. There are no term contracts. Everything is lined up so that everyone can coalesce around our mutual and collective collaborative success. And it's cool. We actually we have investment bankers now dropping deals that need some of the hair cleaned off them into the community saying, hey, here's, not by name, right? Here's the type of business it is. And I need some help getting this thing ready to go to market.
Or even, do you have anybody else who would like to be in this deal? I mean, so there's opportunity sharing already emerging, and you talk about sort of maybe an unexpected turn of events, but that's going to happen more and more, where people encounter deals that there's more than enough for everybody. They're going to turn it over to the community and say, do you want a part of this, or do you have anybody in any of your clients that might like a part of this? So I think that's neat.
Could you comment? I agree, and thank you. I said I'd say thank you 50 times. Could you comment on the power? I think you and I have discussed this, right? How you view the power of having a common language, right? We have a common methodology and process, and this is not a franchise. I want people to take this away. This is not a franchise. You can take what you want, and we give you an instruction manual. And if you want to take all the Legos and build, the X-wing fighter, great. And if you want to take the Legos and build something else, fabulous, excellent. We don't care if there are extra parts on the floor. But could you comment on the power of having a common language and what do you think of the concept that C3D becomes a quality assurance filter, and then maybe we could talk about the path to mastery.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as an individual or private, I guess, business advisor, I would approach cases like any journeyman would. confident in business. I've dealt with most aspects of challenges and solutions in a variety of industries. And so when I engage or when somebody engages me to help improve their business, I use my experience and my expertise, my powers of persuasion, or whatever it takes to help them get unstuck and move. I have a process of my own. It's written in the book about like my revelation in business is that all progress requires change. And it's something that people don't do well, right, on their own. They don't have a reliable approach to lead successful change. So that's what I've developed, and that's how I would wind up bringing solutions and evolving them for each individual case. What I love about Growth Drive is that it offers a larger structure, like a legitimate tested, vetted model for determining where a business is in its capacity right now. It's a bigger perspective, higher perspective on how the company is. It isn't just that we're struggling to find and keep good people or our margins are flagging or whatever it is. It takes a holistic view of the business. So as an independent advisor who has gone in and patched all those holes in the past and would continue going forward now gives me a larger conversation to have, and I think a more legitimate conversation to have with a business owner, because it starts with their intent and points out how we can resolve the issues in the business to achieve their intent. So I think it leads to better and deeper, more committed engagements, and then provides a step-by-step approach that any of us can deliver that approach however we want. Like you said, we're all artisans, and
Yes.
we can use whatever tools or tactics or personality we've got to help lead them through that. But the process is just about as streamlined, I think, as it can get to help align their team, around the owner's intent. And that's missing over 90% of the time from my personal experience in working with teams and business leaders. And then from there to help them put together a plan as much as or as little as they want. If they want a plan and then they want us to help them execute it. So this whole process, I think, gives me like an entire sonata to follow when I'm working with a business, and I can apply my skills, my unique skills and experience throughout that process, but to help them achieve a larger and more prolific outcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I was, I, I'll tell you what, as I was going through the course, I was even ahead of it. After reading the book and being in the community for about a year, it caused me to rethink my practice from being a business consultant and a business advisor, becoming a growth advisor. And I was toying around with the idea of initiating my own growth driving my own growth advisory practice. And from the time I started the course to the time I finished, that decision was made. And so that's what's in the works right now. Going through the course has actually inspired me to launch a growth advisory practice and begin to assemble like-minded professionals in my market and throughout the network to help create an immortal business myself.
Awesome. That's that's profound. Thank you, Tim. That actually, at the end of the course, part of the exam is in two parts. There are 100 questions, mix of multiple choice and true and false, and on which you did exceptionally well, not surprising. And then there's an essay, and the essay is really, I'll summarize it as 1 to 2 pages on your own strategic intent and how the course may have impacted your strategic intent for your advisory business. Could you comment on that?
Well, the exercise was great. It was good after going through all of the courses. Doing the full exam was, I think, it helped to cement the knowledge and make sure that it
Good.
was sort of a checking exercise for me. But then when the questions were very thoughtful, and I think helped me to pull together the progression of how I the program overall, and what are the primary points I took from it, and then ultimately it ended with what I just described, in that it has inspired me to actually launch an entire growth advisory practice. So the essay I thought was a good capstone project for the or exercise. It wasn't really a project, but it was an exercise to complete the entire course, the C3D certification.
Yeah. awesome. And I love the impact that it's had on you. And before I get to the what that topic, what that makes me think of, when we were in the green room, I asked you if you could pull up your essay, if you'd be willing to share short passage from it. Would that be okay?
Sure, you bet.
Thanks.
There are several things. You asked if there's one particular method that I intend to use and maybe how my thinking has evolved. So let me just go with that for right now because it's what we've been talking about. Here's what I wrote: that
Thank you.
the growth drive methodology in this C3D certification course have changed the trajectory of my career. While the possibility of creating a growth advisory firm had crossed my mind in the process of attending the conference and engaging with other professionals in the community on our weekly calls, it was the experience of completing this course that convinced me to make the move. Big thank you to George and each of the contributing faculty members for sharing their wisdom and shaping this program to help business advisors like me help more businesses achieve their full potential.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. That is a that puts profound responsibility on us, and responsibility that we seek and accept. Thank you very much. Yeah, and in creating the essay question and the few guiding points, I wanted to be very careful that it caused the student, you, to think forward, right, and to start planning forward, and it had an especially profound impact on you, which brings up a topic that I'm fascinated by. We're seeing in the community, you start getting this many dedicated pros together in a community. We have one instance of one of our members literally starting up a firm based on, and she started, Anna Halliburta has started Be Ready Exits and Be Ready Advisors, and is bringing in people from across the country. So it's a real firm, but it's a distributed professionals, and there are others who are creating virtual firms. And I would say virtual firms, sort of, none of them are changing their LLCs or becoming members of the same corporate entity, but they are doing single billing, making the client understand that, hey, Tim isn't your front person, and player X, Y, and Z are collaborating, and you're just going to see one bill. You'll always know where we are. We're going to communicate with you. You're not going to be herding kittens with different advisors. I guess that wasn't really a question. What do you think? Does that resonate?
Yeah, it's exactly what I have in mind. I'm not, eager right now to start adding headcount and overhead and everything like that. I can manage the initial cadre of clients myself, but when I need help on a particular topic or my business volume grows to the point where I need, two writers and then three writers, I know that just based on today's business climate and that just the nature of how this works, that we can collaborate as contractors or however we want, primary, secondary, to help each other manage the volume of business they've got. I've had several people in the community contact me already about client sharing and whether could I come in and work on parts of what they do. One of the things that touched me in as I've learned about the system and then the whole growth drive process, I was doing, but without the structure. This kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, and the question you asked about what tool or what aspect do I plan to use in the system. I've always done. I've been aligning leadership teams with the owner's intent for
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
but without the structure. So again, going in as sort of a palm reader myself, understanding who's dissenting, where the abilities are and aren't, and but not always just using my own impression and doing my best to describe that either back to the owner, talk about the revisions we have to make, or turning the herd with individual or groups of leaders on this side. I've been done that many, many times over the years. One of the things I love most about the growth drive process is that it's got a structure for that and that everybody takes the clarity assessment and looks at it and you can see literally you're a 4, you're a 5. Are we all 1 point apart? Are we all over the board? Are we 3 or 4 points apart? Now we can see how much we've got to comb out and where and with whom. It turns that from subjective to objective and
Yes.
helps everybody to see it. So to me, that's like, it's like having an adjustable wrench in my toolkit that wasn't there before, right? So instead of doing all this stuff by hand, I've now got this approach that helps. My point and how this ties to what we were just talking about is that if if another growth advisor in the network has a group that they're working on and their expertise is in some other part of the game plan or some other part of the progression, we can collaborate on that. People can contact me. I can help them with that part, with the leadership team alignment, and then exit and let them finish it out, and vice versa. So I think it has a lot of collaborative potential in the structure that you've created.
Yeah. And Tim, I will say, anyone who isn't calling you to talk about change management, change leader, you use the word leadership, and that's absolutely the right term. Change leadership. You're the guy on this, and so yeah, that's the funny thing. The methodology and the process that's in my book is actually in software makes it, tools are tools, and there are a lot of great tools out in the market. And there are a lot of great methodologies out in the market. But this tool software helps us become very, very efficient. For the uninitiated who listening in, what Tim is referring to is asking each senior leader on an anonymous basis to give their perspective on how the business is operating against a series of best practices. And I've been doing these, I've been doing these for a long, long time. Have never seen alignment, even when it's just done with two leaders. So there's work to be done there.
The whole basis for my book and my work, my sort of collective professional sharing with the world, is that success in business rarely requires a complete U-turn or even a major direction change. It's usually there just one lane or two away from where you are right now, like driving, right? You might be stuck, you're slowing down, you're mired in traffic, but a lane or two away, you have freedom, right? You can go at the pace you want to go at or that you need to go at to achieve your goal. When you go back to the way the clarity assessment structures the questions for each key objective, or even in the clarity 2, where you look at the individual key results or the key indicators for each of those objectives, the success that these businesses need individually and collectively is usually just a level or two up from where they are right now.
Yes.
They don't need disruptive change. They need to just change lanes on 3 or 4 things, and woof, off they go. Now they're growing at a double-digit pace instead of a single-digit pace, or their profitability goes up, or their cash flow goes up. And so it's a series, like, to me, the whole growth drive structure is it's like a giant tailwind for me. It helps me to take and apply what I know to help them change lanes in 3, 4, 5 different areas at a time, and start seeing that rapid progress.
Yeah. It's interesting you pointed out correctly that it's a holistic methodology, and we're looking at the whole business. Underscore that you are not an expert in brand, right? You're not an expert in marketing plan and process, but that doesn't mean you can't ask questions and say, okay, well, does everyone agree that we should be here, that we should be adhering to this best practice, and then to go out and bring in subject matter experts, right. which also, as a side comment, keeps in your proper place as the co-driver. Anyone who's watched Rally, the co-driver with the CEO, and staying above the fray, right? We are peers with the CEO. Most of the people in this community have run businesses or been in senior leadership with business. We're peers with the CEO. And do you feel like this entire process is going to help you stay there?
Absolutely. And that's another awareness builder, is looking at the 5 different levels of engagement, whether you're talking, whether you're educating, are you architect, are you a general contractor, or are you embedded, right? And it really helps. I mean, just the 8 or 10 times I've heard that discussed, it's begun to embed it not only in me, but I'm using that conversation now when I'm talking with clients and prospects. Is, what role would you like me in? You want me to show you or educate you and your team about this? Do you want me to help you design, and be the architect, or do you want me to actually coordinate and cooperate the project for you? So that's been helpful.
I love that. Yeah, it's are you a 1 or a 5? The advisory spectrum. What's interesting, Tim, is that is what a great way to de-risk the conversation for your prospective client, and let's say, listen, we're going to go. I'm here, and I can go as far. This can be our only meeting ever, or we could be joined at the hip for the next 3 years. I love using that as what a great way to qualify too, right? And if they say, I just want you to teach me a few things, Tim, well, great. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do that. It just means that's as far as they currently see the relationship going.
As a business owner and leader myself, one of the first things you wonder when you run into an advisor, right, is, all right, what's this going to cost me? How far is it going to go? Where's it going to take me? I mean, those are all the uncertainties everybody's got. If somebody came to you as an advisor that you were thinking about using to help you with your business today, you'd have all those same uncertainties, right?
Yeah,
And part of what the growth drive process does is it lays that out. It's like a menu. You can have an appetizer, you can have a salad, you can have the entree, you can have dessert, or you can stop after the appetizer. You can skip the appetizer, right?
sure.
So it keeps the company, the client aware and that they are in control of how much is available or not what's available, but they are in control of how much they want to consume from what's available.
Yeah, absolutely. What's interesting is how this is played out in our own, we have, so are you a 1 or a 5 in the advisory spectrum, which really respects where a given advisor wants to take their advisory business. You want to be a 4. Fabulous. Which means you're also a talker, an educator, and probably the architect. And when we see this play out in the, C3D has a 7-step process, and we honor that a lot of advisors are only going to want to go to, let's say, the third step in the process. And what's the process? It's discovering strategic intent. It's then educating the client about strategic intent and the concepts of strategic capacity and the 3 dimensions of business growth. The third step is then analyzing the business. Okay, well, how does this business measure up? Because strategic capacity is what allows us to deliver a client's intent. Watch for today's blog post. It's April 16th. The article's written and in the can. Catherine's busy loading it up right now for publication. So then, okay, so now we've done this analysis. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to redesign. We're going to write the redesign for the business. How do we change lanes? What small things might we change that will have a profound impact on this business's ability to predictably generate profits and cash, to predictably deliver sustainable growth? And then we have an execution leadership system. Now, a lot of advisors are like, I don't want to do that. Terrific. That's why you have pros like Tim, who would be thrilled to come in and help you lead execution. While we're leading execution, we're going to always, we have an analyze, design, execute. We're always going to look back and reconfirm intent. And one of our steps is collaboration, right? We have a very robust set of guiding principles around, we call it the advisor's pledge, and guiding principles around collaboration, and always going back and checking intent and recognizing the fact that clients will disappear from one location and reappear in another one. And sometimes in the same meeting, sometimes overnight, but often without warning, right? Because life happens. So that 7-step process, if you hear, you'll hear the talk, educate, design, and lead, general contractor play out in that process. So
The whole analyze, design, execute cycle is, it's the engineering process and it works so well. I mean, you take those 7 steps and break them down. You're starting with analysis with the CEO and then analysis with the team and then design with the CEO and the team that gets buy-in. Part of what I extol in my book is that, why one of the reasons businesses and leaders struggle with change is that people are disaffected. They
yes,
resist change. And here's one of the keys to that is people support what they help to create. And the whole
yes,
growth drive methodology is so aligned with what I normally deliver, and that you make these plans with your team, not for them. Right? You don't bestow your strategy on your team. You let them be part of shaping it. And so that's a big part of the design phase. And in the process, they buy into the objectives and the key results you're going to strive for, and they know why you're going for them, right? And they even know what's in it for them. And then there's the execute phase. And execution is where an awful lot of the failures or struggles in change fall on their face, where companies may have vision or insight. They may know where they want to go. They may even know how to get there, but they can't execute their way out of a wet paper bag. They run into things and issues and busyness and changes in economic cycles. And so having having a process that is unrelenting, that finds a way to prevail with the execution no matter what, right, is really what you've put together in that execution leadership system, which again is terrific. I've been driven teams and worked with them to succeed against great odds, but not with the reliability of having a system and a platform like that. I think to not just to help them succeed, but to help them succeed whether I'm there or not. And that's really what counts.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to create dependence. I'm trying to create independence, right? And so to me, the big win is when they get that analyze, design, execute cycle, and they can just take it and run with it.
Yeah, well, because one of our guiding principles, Tim, I love to hear you say that. One of our guiding principles is we strive to leave a positive, indelible mark with our clients and with our peers. And is that you just described the indelible impact? And you're right; they have to. You can't always be holding the back of the bike. They need to go out on the track and drive for themselves. Heck yes. Hard to believe we've been talking for almost 40 minutes, as we do, right? As we do. We're both early morning guys. So let me ask, if maybe do what we do in the community, Tim. Do you have one key takeaway that, something that anyone listening you think should know about any of the topics we've just covered?
Well, I would say if you have any interest at all, if any of this sounds intriguing to you, or you'd like to, you're wondering if or how it would apply to what you're doing in your business advisory practice, or maybe you're not a business advisor, maybe you're a practitioner. I spoke with a banker yesterday in the Western United States, and she's got an opportunity to just improve how she serves her customers with the bank by understanding and knowing this methodology. I would tell you, take a look, read the book if you haven't read the book,
Thank you.
hop into the community, and meet some of the people that are here and just see whether or how it can help you to make a bigger difference with the people that you're working with.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. That's terrific wrap up. Yeah. Well, Tim, thanks, man. It's an honor, a pleasure. I appreciate and value your friendship, your voice, having your voice in the community. And thanks for being willing to come on and share a little bit of your experience with the certification in the 3 dimensions of growth, C3D. And so thank you. And I know I'm going to see you on Tuesday at the next Coffee Clutch,
Absolutely.
our
Absolutely.
weekly open mic.
I,
Everyone's welcome.
everyone's welcome.
Everyone's welcome. So cool. Tim, thanks.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure. Glad to be here.
This episode is brought to you by the Growth Drive Summit. Our theme this year is building a profitable advisory business. Join us in Charleston, South Carolina, October 6th, 7th, and 8th. Expand your network, learn new skills, and generally have a good time. This is a top-rated event. We're looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you.